Hey everybody, this is TechNolli. Whoa, we got a nice one today. You guys are going to love this board. This is an ASUS Z390 E GAMING. You believe that one? A channel subscriber gave this board to me for helping him get his ASUS, the same motherboard, up and running. I couldn't believe how nice that was of Ed to do that. And he sent it to me because he wanted other people to see how this board performs. And I have to say, guys, it performs beautifully. I've got the Intel i9-9900K in this one. And boy, is she a screamer. Here's our ports. We've got some nice ports on this. It's kind of unusual. It has a display port and an HDMI. I was able to get integrated graphics to work on this. And you got a lot of USB ports and a Type-C, which is nice. Let's do a little flyover here. This board has so many fan headers on it. You can put it in a serious RGB water-cooled system if you'd like, and it will handle it. Nice board, guys. Really nice. So we Hackintoshed it. We got it running. And this is Opencore 057. And I've got my Radeon Vega 56 in here, and we're doing benchmarks on it. So let's get into this one, guys. Okay, guys, so here we are on this ASUS Z390 E Gaming motherboard. And a nice board it is. So let's get started into building this Opencore 0.5.7 bootloader for this motherboard. And this one's pretty easy, guys. So we're going to assume that you've already made your bootloader vanilla USB right here. As you can see, mine's done. You see that in another video that's above you in the description below too. And so from here, we're going to use the Mount EFI, and these are all files right here that you're going to download from my website, and it'll be in the description below, so you'll have a link to my website to download these files. So you're going to need this Mount EFI, and we want to double click on that. Now if this is the first time you've opened Mount EFI, then you have to right click and open. All right. And what we want to do is we want to get to the EFI partition on this USB stick. So right here it is. Number 2 is the install macOS Catalina right there. And so we're going to press number 2 and put in your password. And right now I have my EFI folder. So let's go ahead and close this out, and we're going to go to the Opencore folder that we downloaded. All right, so let's put this EFI over here, open it up, and what we need to do is drag this folder over to our empty EFI partition, and then double click here, double click on OC, and we need another file from here, and we need the sample plist, so we'll put it over here in the OC folder. Okay, now we can go ahead and close this out. All right, now what we need to do is rename this sample.plist to config.plist. Okay, then go ahead and go to the tools folder here and just delete all of these files. Okay, now go to drivers, and we want to get rid of all these files in here except for Open Runtime. So we still need this one, but we don't need these because they're for older systems, typically. All right, so now we have that file. And then if you'll notice, our kext folder is empty and our ACPI is empty. We have to make our SSDTs that go in here, and we have to add our kext and a couple of drivers here. So in the folders that you downloaded on my website, you're going to find a folder called drivers. We need just two files out of here to put into our drivers folder here. Okay, so let's just copy these and let's paste them in here. Now on this particular motherboard, we're going to go over to our other folders now and go to kext. On this particular motherboard, we need this Intel Mousy Ethernet.kext. These other files that you see here, these are kext. They're kind of like drivers on Windows. These are always needed. The Whatever Green, Virtual SMC, and Lilu, Apple ALC will normally take care of all newer audio interfaces on motherboards. That's typically will work just about on any. But this is particular to my motherboard, so we're going to use this one. If you need a different kext for your Ethernet, then you can go over to the Opencore website, and you can go up here to gathering files. And right here, there's a list of different kexts. See right here, kext. And here's your different Ethernet kext. Okay, so this Intel Mousy is for typically i2-19s, and the small tree is for the other Intel graphics chip, was the i211. And this one's very common. This Realtek is very common on some boards too. This one's not so common. Okay, so let's go out of here. And I'm just going to copy all of these because that's what I need for this board, and paste it into my kext folder. Okay, now we need to compile some SSDTs to put in our ACPI folder, okay? So let's go over to the new Opencore website, and this is a Coffee Lake chipset motherboard, so we'll click here on these Intels, and we'll click right here on ACPI, and that'll take us right here to these SSDTs that we need to compile. So what we want to do is we want to go over here to this little file that you downloaded, this Mac IASL program. Just open it up. If it doesn't open, right click and then open, and then click new. We can go ahead and close this one. And what we want to do is we want to click on this SSD plug. That's our first one we're going to do. And we're going to click on raw. And we're going to select all and copy and just put them, paste them right into there. And we'll go back over here. And we're going to name this file SSDT-plug. Now something is very important to do. Let's save it to the desktop. And then right here, file format, you have to save it to an ACPI machine language binary for it to be an AML file, a compiled file. So we click save. All right. Okay, let's go ahead and we'll get rid of all of this. And we'll grab another one here. We'll click raw. We'll select all and copy. And we will paste it right here. We go up here to File, Save As. And this one is called SSDT-EC-USBX. Okay, we're going to save it to the desktop, and also we're going to rename it. And just click Save. All right, now we have two of them done up here. All right, let's get rid of all this in here. We have another one to do. This one here fixes boot issues. So we'll do the same. Select all and copy. And yes. And paste it in here. And we will save as. And this one is called SSDT-AWAC. Okay. And save it. Now this next one right here, you're lucky. You don't have to compile it. We can just download it. Right there. Just click download. And we'll grab it real quick and throw it on the desktop with these others. All right. So we can close out of this little program. And let's go ahead and minimize this for now. And now we can take all of these SSDTs and put them in the ACPI folder. Okay, drag and drop them. Perfect. Now, we have to start building our config.plist. And in order to do that, we need this little program right here called propertree. So double click on propertree, right click on propertree.command and click open. All right. Then we'll go up here to file, open, and we want to go to that EFI, which is this. This is our hidden partition. And we've got our EFI folder in there. So we're going to click on this, click on OC folder, and then click config.plist and click open. Now let's go ahead and get rid of these little warnings right here. They don't need to be here. And we have taken care of all these warnings. So we're good. First thing we want to do is we want to inject all of the files that we just put in this folder. So what this program is going to do is going to inject all the SSDTs, all the drivers, and the kext into the config.plist. So we just simply go up here to File, OC Snapshot, and then make sure, guys, that you click on the EFI folder, or partition, the EFI folder, the OC folder, and then once you see this up here, you can click Choose. And it just made a bunch of changes in our config.plist. The first thing we want to look at is these SSDTs that it injected that we just made. We need to set these to true because right now they're turned off. So we just double click and select true. Okay, double click, true, true, and true. All right, we are done with that. Now we can go ahead and start doing all the changes in the config.plist. It looks overwhelming, but it's not hard. And we will use the guide right here on the Opencore website. I like to move this over here. Just kind of squeeze it in a little bit so I can see the page and I can see my config.plist to make changes. All right, so we're going to go here to our Coffee Lake guide. Don't choose one of these other ones. Make sure you're on the right one. And then we'll go down here. We've already taken care of these SSDTs, so we want to go to the next section, which is quirks. All right, so if we scroll down here a little bit, you're going to see quirks. And all of these right here, by default, are fine. So we can go to booter, and we're going to have some changes to make here under booter and then quirks. So just scroll down a little bit further until you see the beginning of the quirks. Now, what we want to do is just verify that everything here is correct over here. And as we can see, we've got a couple that aren't right. So this one right here is fine. It's set to yes. The next one should be true. Yes equals true. No equals false. Okay, so we can go on down here till we see the next yes. Enable safe mode slider. Okay, it's true, and that's correct. The next one is true, and that's correct. And then no. And then right here they have provide custom slide, and it is supposed to be set to yes. Now, if you'll see right above it, protect UEFI services. And on your Z390s, when you select right up here, devirtualize MIMO, you set it to true for the Z390, which we are on. And then also right here, it says requires protect UEFI services. So down here, we want to make sure this is true. So a little tricky there. You want to make sure that you grab that one so you don't have any boot issues. Okay, so we did this, we did this. Now, rebuild Apple memory map. We want to check that. Yep, it needs to be set to true on our particular motherboard. Now, set up virtual map needs to be no or false. Signal Apple OS, false. And the last one, sync runtime permissions, should be true. All right. Device properties. Now, on this motherboard, if you wanted to use the integrated graphics instead of a graphics card, it does work. But you need to use a little adapter to go from DisplayPort to HDMI. So, if you want to use onboard graphics, then you're going to go right here where it says this is used when display iGPU is used to drive a display. So this is the number or characters that we would put into this section right here. Okay? So if you wanted to drive a display, if you wanted to use the onboard graphics, you just right click, copy, and paste it into there. And that's it. I'm using a graphics card, so I'm not going to mess with it. All right. So let's move on down. This is just talking about other issues with display card problems, but on this board, that one change fixes everything to work. Okay, then we come down here to kernel. Everything here is fine until we get to quirks. Right here's quirks. So we'll just scroll way down till we get to quirks. Right here it is. Now, this is really important. On this motherboard, you can disable CFG lock in the BIOS. So if, let's say you were on a different motherboard, but it was a Coffee Lake, and there was no way to disable CFG lock in the BIOS, then you would turn these to true. But since we can disable it, we're going to leave them false. And it's also for the second one. So both of these have to do with CFG. All right, so we'll go on down here until we get to disable low mapper right here. Now this one right here is needed if you cannot disable VT-D. In the BIOS on this one, I can disable it. But just to be safe, I'm going to turn it to true, because sometimes that works and sometimes it doesn't. But on this one, I set it to true and everything's fine. Okay, let's move on down to panic, no kex dump right here. This should be true. This one, power timeout, kernel panic, should be true. And USB port limit or XHCI port limit should be true. Okay, let's move on down here. Miscellaneous. We're almost done, guys. All right, all of this stuff is fine by default until you get to this debug. And right here it is. Debug. So on 10.15.4 and newer, we want to have this Apple debug turned on. True. And then disable watchdog needs to be true. Then we have targets 67. Right now it's set to 3, so we're just going to change it to 67. Hit enter. And this is okay. Display level is fine the way it is by default. That's a new change. So let's go down here to security. And we have allow NVRAM reset needs to be true. And the next one, which is allow set default, needs to be true. And down here, all of these are fine. And when you get to scan policy, that needs to be 0. And vault needs to be set to optional. All right, there we go. Okay, NVRAM. We can just go ahead and scoot on down to NVRAM, and we have to change our boot arguments right here. So we'll scroll down a little bit, and here's our boot args. So I have the first 2, but now I have to add debug. So I'm going to copy it. And you always want a space in between each argument. So I'm going to hit the space bar and paste that in there, and then another space, and then we have to put in this ALCID equals 1. And we'll paste that in there. We're done. Now, if you have a high-end graphics card, a 5000 series or higher graphics card, you need to add one more boot argument for it to work. And it is, believe it or not, over here. They don't talk about it here, but it's under the AMD config.plist under Zen, which is your Ryzen's. And we'll just go down to NVRAM. And you're going to see it right here. This AGDP mode equals piker. That would go right at the end of that one with a space. So you just copy and paste that into there, and your 57 or 5000 series graphics cards should work fine. That's the only thing you want to change. All right, so we'll go back to Coffee Lake. And we were on NVRAM, so we'll go back down there, and everything's good and done. All of this is good. Now, this is where we change the language when we get into the macOS. So I want to choose English, so I'm going to grab this text right here. If you have a different language that you want to use, just click on this Apple Keyboard Layouts.txt, and it'll give you different numbers to put right in there. Now I've set it to English. All right, so all of this is fine until we get to write flash, and write flash needs to be true, and it's right here, write flash. Okay, platform info. Here we're going to check and make sure we have the best setting for our system product name, and that is our best setting for the i9-9900. For really any of your Z390s, this would be a good choice and seems to work really well. Okay, so we'll go to UEFI, and all we need to do here, everything is fine. All of this is fine. Just scroll on down to quirks. Right here it is on the page. Whoops. Right here. So everything is fine except request boot var fallback should be set to true. Everything else is correct. All right, guys, so go ahead and go up here and file and save, or none of those changes will take place. Now, while I'm right here, I want to show you guys something. If you scroll down just a little further, this tells you your BIOS settings that you should have in your motherboard. Okay, we're going to go through the BIOS settings on this board, but this is a great guide to make sure your BIOS settings are set correctly, because a lot of you guys are missing some things here, and that will cause your system to freeze or get stuck. Okay, so let's get into the BIOS on this. We'll just go ahead and close out. Go ahead and close out of Safari, and let's reboot and get into the BIOS on this one. We're going to hit that delete key to get into the BIOS on the ASUS. All right, here we go. Here we go. There it is. Okay, so if you first get into your BIOS and you see it set like this, this is called easy mode. As you can see right up here, it says easy mode. We want to go to advanced mode, which is right here, and that's F7, or just use your mouse. Okay, so we can go over here and set everything up as the default. Load optimized defaults. Okay, so I'm going to load them up and hitting enter. All right, now let's go over to advanced. This is where we need to get started. So platform miscellaneous configuration, everything here is fine by default. CPU configuration, all of this is good. Okay. System agent, our VT-D is disabled, and that's what we want, but we want above 4G decoding enabled. All right. Memory configuration, everything's fine. Graphics configuration, this is where if you were going to use your onboard graphics, you would change this to CPU graphics. You definitely need to change the memory right here to 64. If it's at 32 or something else, it's not going to work. So 64, and everything else is fine. But I'm going to set it to auto because I'm using a graphics card right now. All right, we'll go out of here. This is fine by default. DMI, PEG port configuration, everything's fine. All right, let's move on. PCH configuration, it's fine the way it is. PCH storage configuration, everything is good by default. Make sure yours looks like that. PCH FW, discrete TPM is fine. Onboard device configuration, we definitely want our audio turned on. We want to use our LAN chipset. So everything here by default is good, except down here where it says serial port configuration. We want to hit enter, and we want to turn that off. All right. Let's go out of here. APM, everything's fine the way it is, and sleep does work on this with these settings set the way it is. PCI subsystems is fine, disabled. USB configuration, you want to make sure that XHCI handoff is enabled. All right. Network stack configuration, disabled. NVMe configuration, yes, I have one, and there it is. Okay, let's go over here to boot. Boot configuration is right here, and we want to turn fast boot off, so we'll disable that. And everything else here is fine. We'll go out of here. CSM is disabled, and it needs to be. Secure boot, we want to choose Windows UEFI mode. Okay, go out of here. Everything else is fine. So we are ready to save changes and reset. Make sure you have your USB drive in the computer because we're going to boot. All right, let's get started with this one. Okay, I'm pressing that F12 key because I want to choose the memory stick. Now, if you get this error message, we need to go back into the BIOS. It's really annoying. So just go back into the BIOS. Okay, so we'll go over here to Secure Boot, which is under Boot, and we want to go down here to Key Management. Hit that, and then click on Clear Secure Boot Keys. And say yes. Now we won't get that message. Save changes and reset. Now we'll try that F12 key again. There we go. So we come up to our little bootloader over here, and we want to choose Install macOS Catalina External. That is our USB stick. Hit enter, and away it goes. We're going to start to load the OS. It goes pretty quick on this board, guys. And that thing gets stuck pretty good on forcing a runtime, forcing CS runtimes. Gets stuck pretty good, but just hold on to it. It'll go past it. We'll come up here to our format screen. All right. This is what we always like to see. Once we get to this part, you get to this point right here, you're pretty much home free. Don't have many fails if you get to here. So we'll click on Disk Utility and click Continue. Guys, do not forget to click on right here, this down arrow on View, and Show All Devices. There are my hard drives. If you don't show all devices, you don't see your hard drive names. Okay? You want to see the root of your hard drive. I'm going to erase this one. And I just click on Erase. And you call it whatever you want. I'm going to call it ASUS i9. And then you definitely want to choose APFS for your format and GUID partition map. And click Erase. All right, we're done. So we'll click out of here. We'll click Install macOS. Continue, agree, and agree. And this is the hard drive I just formatted. So I'm going to choose it and click Install. And this will take about 6 minutes. And it goes pretty quick right here. So as soon as it gets toward the end here, about 2 minutes remaining, it's going to reboot. So we'll come back here in a couple minutes. Okay, we got about 3 minutes remaining. So at 2 minutes remaining, it's going to reboot. And at that point, you want to leave your USB stick in there because we still need to boot from it. Let's see. There it goes. All right, guys, we're going to come up one more time to that boot menu. Okay, we're coming back up. We don't have to hit anything. We don't have to hit any keys. We'll just let it go to the boot menu. All right, so right here we want to choose our macOS installer. That is our hard drive that we're working on right now that we're loading. So let's hit enter. And it's going to go through a lot more text because we're still installing the operating system. So it'll come up here in a second and go to its next process. All right, gets hung up on a couple lines, but it passes it. Now guys, it's going to come up here on this Apple logo, and it is going to take about 12-13 minutes to go completely across the screen. And then it's going to reboot again. And of course, we're going to leave our USB stick in there because we still need to boot from it. So when this gets closer to the end, we'll come back. Okay guys, about 5 minutes remaining, so we'll continue to watch it here. It'll get down toward the end and it will reboot. So hold on a minute. Less than a minute remaining, so here we go. Let's see what happens. It's going to reboot and we need to leave the memory stick in there again. There it goes. All right, we're going to come up to the boot menu again, and we're going to be able to see our hard drive this time. Okay, so there it is, the ASUS i9. That's what I named my hard drive, so that's what we're going to select. And we just have to finish up the install here, guys. All right. Going to come up here now and pick our country. Gotta like that. Once we get here, we're home free. Continue, continue, continue. I don't want to transfer anything. I do have my Ethernet cable plugged in, so it's gonna show me that I'm ready to sign into Apple, but we haven't changed serial numbers, so we don't want to do that. So I'm going to say set up later and skip it. And then agree to the terms and conditions. And we're just going to name it whatever you want, guys. And give it a password. All right. Continue. And I'll customize this. I want to enable location services. And I don't want to use analytics, so continue. Set up later. Enable Siri. Not now. All right. And here's where you can choose light or dark mode. Okay, I'm going to choose light mode for right now. Love it. Okay, here we just tell it what kind of keyboard we have. All right, done. So there we are. We have our transparent bar down here. We go to About This Mac, and it shows our i9. It shows that we've got 32 gigabytes, and it shows my Radeon RX Vega 56 with 8 gigabytes of RAM. So there we go. Now, what do we have left to do? We have to copy the EFI folder from the hidden EFI partition on our USB stick, right? So, let me grab another USB stick. I got this other USB stick that has a couple files on it, which wouldn't be a bad idea for you guys to have, because we're going to need mount EFI. Okay, that way we can mount our EFI folders. All right, so we're going to double click, right click, and open on mount EFI.command. And right here is number 3 is my hard drive. So I got to click on 3 and put in my password. All right, and then we also need to open up the EFI on our USB stick. So right there's my USB, which is number 5. So I hit that. And there is my EFI partition on my USB stick. All right. So inside of here, we have that EFI folder that we built in the beginning of this video, right? Now let's go over here to Computer. And right in here is my EFI partition on my hard drive. And notice there's nothing in there. So if we don't transfer this EFI folder to here, we're going to have to continue to leave in our USB stick because it won't boot. So just drag and drop it into here. All right. That's it. I'm going to reboot this thing. We're going to come back up. And we're going to do some benchmarks on this i9-9900K ASUS. All right, let's go. Now you notice now, guys, how fast this thing boots up. We're still showing you the verbose mode, but you see how quick that boots. All right, we are in. So let's put in our password. And now we can run some benchmarks. All right. So let's start with GeekBench. And I have right here in my hand our results on our Ryzen 9 9900K so we can compare. All right, let's get started with this. Okay, guys, getting down toward the end of it here. Hey, please like and subscribe. This is a good time to do it while you're watching this GeekBench 5 get to the end of its test. What do you say? All right, here we go. All right, 1273 for a single core. Not bad at all. 1273 and 8427 on a multi. That's not so good because the Ryzen 9 3900X was 1332 on a single, so that's pretty close. But the multi was 12,450. Let's compare. Mac benchmarks. All right, so 1273. So we're above anything in here. So I'm real happy with the single score. Let's go to multi. 84. So a late 2017 iMac Pro. Now that's a Xeon processor. All right. And we are above, we're above an iMac from early 2019 with an i9-9900. So how is that? We have a faster score, an i9-9900K PC than an actual Mac. But we'll take that score. 8427. All right. Beautiful. So let's go out of here and let's do Cinebench. Okay. Let me close this geek out. All right. So we'll go here to, and there it is. Okay. Let's run this. Now, if you watched the video the other day with the Ryzen, this is fast too. This is not bad at all. So we'll see what it comes down to here. All right, guys. So if you're having problems with your computers, like I know you guys are, because I get tons and tons and tons, hundreds of requests for support on YouTube that of course I just can't get to because there's so many. But please check your BIOS settings. That sometimes has a lot to do with errors, stuck screens and things like that. Things that I haven't tested, motherboards that I haven't tested, you know, I really can't help you. It's just there's so many different variables. Okay, so there we go. 4831. Not a horrible score. We're above this Ryzen 7 1700X. Not a bad score. Now, the Ryzen 9 3900 was 7350. So that was above this Threadripper right here, 1950X 16 core. So, you know, this is still great scores on both these, you know, two different computer setups. This ASUS board was really a nice board to work with. Really good quality. I would definitely suggest it. It's a good tested board. You can get this, put it in your system. You don't have to get an i9. You can get an i3 if you want. And this EFI folder that I just built will work on your system because of the motherboard, if you buy this motherboard. So if you don't want problems, if you want a system that just boots up and you don't have to go crazy trying to figure it all out, then maybe you want to choose a board that I've already tested or a system that I've already tested. All right, guys, this was good fun. And I hope you're learning about Opencore 057. And we're going to continue bringing out a lot of fun videos and a lot of educational stuff to try to learn more and more about the Hackintosh world. And guys, we're going to see you on the next one.